All right. I'm just curious what the temperatures are like in here. Now, obviously, I didn't run it that long. Sorry, you probably can't see that. 107. Muffler is about 300 degrees. Overhead valves are about 118, that's not bad. Engine bay, 82, that's practically outside temp, 90. Again, muffler, 311. So it's not like, you know, I didn't run it more than 10 minutes or whatever, but it does warm up fast in there, I'm sure. 93, gas tank temp, 91, 90. I'm gonna go ahead and put this thermometer inside of this toolbox. I can't remember why I bought this, but it's 14 bucks from Harbor Freight, and it's great for reading temps. And that's the perfect thing to read temps on when the hydraulics get hot. I don't know what this is. I'm gonna take that off. Some tag or something. So this is kind of goofy, but I did a little zip tie thingy here to try to keep these hoses on. It may work, may not. I don't know. All right, one of the next things I wanted to do is this flip down seat, or flip up seat I should say. There's actually little wing nuts that go in these two holes on each side, and they like don't fit, which is why they were in the cup holder and not on. But this thing vibrates. Now if you probably put bolts in, it probably wouldn't. But I kind of like leaving it undone so then I can flip this up at any given time. Like if I'm running it for a while and it gets hot, I can open the back door and flip this up. I don't want to have to undo bolts every time I want to flip the seat up or add gas or whatever. But this thing vibrates and it makes a lot of noise. It's kind of annoying. Like if you idle this thing down, hop off, and you're doing something, you can hear it like clacking. And it's annoying. So I've had this for a long time. I bought it to dampen the sound of these hoods hitting this dash, but I ended up using these little circular felt pad things instead. And I'm glad I held on to this because I was gonna throw it, but now I can cut this and just stick it on here, and that should hopefully dampen the sound. Might as well use as much as I can because probably won't use it for a long time. And that's it. Yeah, that should definitely help. I also wanted to show something with the tracks that I found out. So obviously this is a new machine, and so the tracks are brand new. And it's in a bad spot right now to show this. Both sides are actually, because I just started doing this, but you can see the teeth here on this, I don't know if you call it a sprocket or what the correct term for that is, but these little teeth here go through the track, and since the track is brand new, there's no holes in it yet. And I read online as well as saw in some YouTube videos people having problems with the tracks. And it's because the sprocket teeth aren't breaking through the track yet. So, and I gotta move this thing to actually show it working, but I took a pocket knife and I started going around and cutting X's in every one of these little square, thingies where the sprocket teeth go. See that? See, I did all these. And don't worry, there's nothing underneath of this to really cut, so you can use a pocket knife. At least on the QH12R model, but as soon as I start driving this thing, hopefully those teeth will, you'll start seeing the teeth popping out, and that'll give it way better traction and a better ride, I'm assuming. There's a tooth right there, I can feel it. So I was looking over this thing and I realized I didn't know where the battery was. And I took the metal plate that was on here off, and as you can see, there's battery down here. I was curious how big it was and how easily accessible it was. And it is strapped down, so that's good. And it has these protective rubber deals on there so it doesn't arc on the bottom of the metal plates. Probably kind of hard to see, but taking this plate or this metal cover off gives you access to a bunch of stuff down in here. I'll be honest with you, I don't even know what I'm looking at. But there's so many different things that need to be checked for tightness. It's kind of, I mean, some of it is you can't even see. I mean, there's stuff in there that's way down in there. So hopefully all that stuff stays in good condition for a while so I don't have to mess with it. But everything kind of comes apart. I mean, you can take this plate off, and get access to all the hoses and valves and everything underneath. So it's not like it's a lot to take off if something did go wrong. But there were 3 bolts on here, 13mm bolts, and I think every one of them stripped out halfway, taking them out. And of course I used an impact, but it's like they're not even tapped correctly. And then the front side of the engine is under there as well. You can see some electrical, and if anything electrical wise ever fails, if it doesn't turn over, lights don't work, you know, whatever, then that's one of the places you would check, as well as the battery supply, the power supply. I like this mat. This is cool. Super easy to clean. And it looks kind of cool. So I decided I'm just going to take the choke cable off. This mesh right here actually makes it, since it doesn't work right, it makes it harder to turn this on and off. If this wasn't hooked up, it wouldn't be bad at all. I mean, it's right here. It's easy to just do it by hand. I'm using a 14mm. Try not to lose all my parts here. Okay. It's just not rigid enough. So it seems to have kind of an auto return on the choke. So right now I'm holding the choke on, and when I let go, it automatically moves over to run. Okay, so this right here, this is a choke cable off of a garden tractor. Most likely it's Sears, but I kept it, and that is what I'm talking about. This isn't like a cable, it's like a linkage. It's a solid, you know, some certain gauge of wire, and it's rigid enough that if it's pushing or pulling, it doesn't bend or get bunched up or anything. So I'm actually going to try to throw this on. I think I can get this to work. Stick it through there. Oh yeah, I think I can get that to work. Maybe. I'm gonna take this little apparatus off of this cable. Maybe I can use this. Alright, I came up with an idea, and I apologize in advance because it's going to be really stupid, but I think it'll work. So, I need to put this on first, and that'll be tightened a little bit. There we go. Okay. I found this bolt, which I already know fits because I stuck it in there. I know I can get throttle parts for this somewhere. I just don't feel like going anywhere right now for that. And I'm really just trying to see if this will work or not. I'm just curious. But I don't want to spend any money if I don't have to. All it is a choke. I could do it by hand if I wanted. I just want to see if this will work. I always like to imagine that I'm stranded out in the middle of nowhere and I have to work with what I have, and there's no option to get parts anywhere. It's always kind of a fun little game. Okay. Now I can tighten this bolt here in a minute, but let's see if it works. Nice. See how much better that is? And this is all hoggled together. Wow. So this will get by for now. There's my zip tie job. Zip tied the choke cable, as well as that electrical that didn't go anywhere, so at least it's not bouncing around. Let's see this one more time. Nice. It seriously makes me laugh that there's a 50-year-old garden tractor throttle cable on this, and this one that came with it is pretty much useless. Looks good though. That's so satisfying to have things work. So I was looking online at these throttle cables that lock like this, and they all kind of look the same. They all have the really cheap cable inside that will pull but not push. And so instead of wasting money on getting another one that's just gonna do the same thing, I went to Harbor Freight and I bought this 200-piece spring assortment. And I'm gonna open this up and play with these, see which one seems right, and I'm gonna hook up a spring. So then there's tension on the throttle mechanism. So then the spring returns it, and then this thing should work just fine. I'm gonna recap. Again, that little screw head broke off of this. That's how cheap that metal is. Maybe I got it too tight, I don't know. But I don't think I've ever broken anything off that was a Phillips and not hex. So that's how cheap this metal is, which, you know, doesn't mean the excavator's bad, but that is a cheap component there. So I can't really get this off, and it has a piece of wire through it, so really the only way to get it off is to cut it. But I noticed that there's a hold down right here, as well as another one of these little deals back here. So I'm actually going to reroute the throttle cable. And I also noticed though that this thing has two springs hooked up to it, and it still doesn't return all the way. I'm almost wondering if this isn't too tight, and that's a 10 mil. So I'm going to loosen it just a tiny bit, see if that does anything. Lift that out of the way. All right. It's at low idle right now, so I'm gonna move this thing forward. Boom, and that's the highest. That's what the high idle's set at right now, because this screw is touching that. We're gonna back it off. And it's still not returning all the way, so I can still put a little screw on this somewhere. So that's what we got for screws, or I'm sorry, springs. So I hooked that spring back here on the recoil, and so all I have to do is hook it up. Alright, I think this is gonna work. And it's gonna save me money from buying a different throttle cable in the process. Let's give it a try. That right there is full throttle. And I messed up already. This was supposed to be on top. Alright, and I fixed it. So now, oh yeah, that works way better. Full throttle, low idle, and everywhere in between. Now, as you can tell, this throttle cable doesn't operate the whole spectrum of adjustment, which doesn't bother me, could bother somebody else, but there's still infinite little things of adjustment in there. And it's actually kind of nice because if you have this thing all the way forward, it blocks your key, you know. That's full throttle right there. That's not a bad angle. So now I just have some small stuff here to do, tighten up some screws, and I need to zip tie this throttle cable out of the way so it doesn't hit on anything. This thing here is plenty tight. That's tight. Everything looks good. The cables are all out of the way, as you can tell. Everything looks good. Right now it's high idle, low idle, high idle, and adjustments in between. Right there. Now, I don't need to, but I'm actually going to make a mark on here with a white paint marker where high idle is. That way I don't jam this thing forward, which if I really wanted to, I could adjust this by playing with this set screw right here and this as well. I could adjust this throttle cable so then high idle is actually up here and use more of that spectrum of adjustment, but I don't want to do that because I don't want to mess with this and break any of this crap, because then I'll really be screwed. But I also don't want to like get in a hurry and jam this thing forward and break something, which really wouldn't break much, but I'm just gonna mark this. I bought these a long time ago. I like using white markers and chalk and whatever when doing metalworking projects. I just haven't opened this yet. That's it. That's why it's never a bad idea to buy crap you don't need when you're at the store. I've had this a long time, but finally I needed a white marker. So we're just gonna let that little mark dry nice and good, and then that'll tell me where full throttle is. Bang on the money. Now if you think that this is just absurdly ridiculous, I'm just gonna say this again. $5,199 for an excavator. A fully functional excavator. So yeah, if you gotta mess with the throttle cables, whatever. I know this is all pain. I went and paid $4.99 for this spring assortment from Harbor Freight, just to add a little more spring. And I know it's not, now it's like not stock, you know, it's like got custom stuff on it. And you could argue and say, yeah, well, it should be fine right out of the box, so to speak. But it isn't, and a lot of them aren't. So you gotta do this goofy little crap. But that's the thing though, if you buy from Kimron or Groundhog, anybody who buys these, redoes them, does their own branding, changes parts, updates stuff, it may be worth it to buy from them. But doing this little stuff, I don't know, it's kind of fun to me. I don't mind it. This doesn't bother me at all. I'd much rather do this stuff than use a shovel. So we got like a 50-year-old choke cable on here off of a garden tractor, which works fine now. Choke on, choke off, full throttle, low idle, and everything in between. Boom. Locked in, right on the mark. So the throttle cable situation for now is fixed. Half throttle, choke on. Oops. Gotta turn that on. Sweet. I will have a lot more videos on this. If anyone has any questions or comments or anything they want to know about it, feel free to let me know. I'll try my best to answer or show you whatever you're looking for the best I can.